I'm so excited.
Thank you so much. My name is Jasmine Williams. I'm a staff writer here with Brit+Co, and I cover mostly our book coverage. So I am like 10 toes deep into mythology, romantasy, rom-coms, thriller books, true crime inspired books. So I am obsessed, like I said, with the god in Gumiho. I honestly, I don't know what I was expecting just because I wasn't super familiar with Korean mythology, but this makes me want to do like a deep dive, and it almost feels kind of like it has the romantasy elements, but there's also kind of like a bit of K-pop drama. So I wanted to know what elements of K-pop were you inspired by, like when you were writing the book?
Yeah, I love K-dramas. I especially love the fantasy K-dramas like Goblin or Hotel Del Luna or Tale of the Nine-Tailed. And when I wrote this book, I was really writing the K-drama I wanted to watch um, at the time. And I like to say that The God and the Gumiho is kind of like a K-drama in book form. I really try to pay homage to all the shows that I love, and I think they do such a great job with romance and weaving that together with fantasy. And you have this, you always can count on a K-drama to have a delicious slow burn with a lot of the times it's enemies to lovers or rivals to lovers. There's some tension there. So I try to combine all of these things into a love letter to the K-drama.
And
Yeah.
specifically, like with Sioka and Kim. So Sioka is like the trickster god, and you have Kim, who she has this backstory. She right now is kind of unassuming when you first meet
Mhm.
her, but she has this really huge history, and she's kind of like taking a break. She's like, you know what, I'm good from everything that I've been doing. So when you first introduce them on page, you can kind of immediately tell like they don't really get along whatsoever. They
Mhm.
get on each other's nerves. And I wanted to know, when you were coming up with their personalities, what were you inspired by, especially with Sioka? Because at first it's like, oh, he's just this grumpy guy who's
Mhm.
been around for centuries and he doesn't have time for anyone. And then you have Kim, who's like, you know what, I'm okay with being around other people and mortals. And she kind of is like fun loving. So, what were you inspired by?
I think primarily I knew that I wanted the characters to be grumpy sunshine. That is one of my favorite tropes to read and also to write. With Soka, I think I was really drawn to morally gray characters who have a very tough exterior, but on the inside, they're very, I mean, cinnamon roll is the only way to describe it. Um, And for Honey, I think, she's the opposite of that. She appears very bubbly and nice, but she does have a very murderous secret that she's been keeping. And so I think in a way they're sort of foils to each other, which was really fun to play around with, especially when it came to their budding relationship. And I love badass female protagonists. That's always something that I've been drawn to. And having her sort of be in retirement was a really fun twist on that. And just seeing how they interact with each other as well was so fun, especially because you have that sort of contrasting dynamic.
Mhm. And I just have to say, the more that, which I know it's been out in the world for about a week now, which is really exciting. And for anyone who hasn't read it yet, I just want to go ahead and say that the ending is probably going to break your heart a little bit, but the epilogue will kind of start putting back the pieces. And I just feel like it was such a great segue, into possibly what will happen next in this story. And so this is actually a new series, Fate's Thread. And I kind of want to ask you, what do you feel like is the difference between Fate's Thread and the Talon series?
Yeah, well, so they are both sort of based in Korean mythology, but with my YA series, the Talon series, it's more high fantasy in a secondary world. So it's a lot of, like sword and dagger, um, kingdoms, emperors, and an entirely fictional world, things like that. The God and the Gumiho is, I would describe it probably as a contemporary fantasy. So it is based in our world, and although there's a fictional city, it's still on planet Earth. They still interact with items that we know and love, like coffee chains or things like that. Hani works as a barista. I think too that The God and the Gumiho is a really fun romp. It's dark certainly at times, but I think the overtone is very fun and even lighthearted at times, except maybe for the ending. That was a little, not to give it away, but that was a little dark. With my YA, I would say it's actually quite a bit darker, which I feel like people are sometimes surprised by because it is young adult. But I do think that young adult is a really interesting sphere to sort of explore different challenges and things like that. So, like I said, this is like a fun K-drama. I would describe Last of the Talons as like a K-drama gone down a very dark route.
Yeah, and it's so funny that you mentioned, just the ending of The God in the Gumiho. It's like I said, my heart shattered. But with respect to the ending, when we think about just other kind of like romantasy books and the tropes that are in them, the endings aren't always the traditional happy ending that you kind of would get from like a rom-com. And I've been noticing that common theme in the romantasy books and even with other books that I've been reading. So, from your perspective, do you feel like there has to be kind of like a happy ending in romantasy, or does the way that the ending of, like, say, one book kind of open up the door for a potential series?
I think it's all up to the discretion of the author. I know I've read some romantasy books that do have that um, happily ever after ending, and they don't really need to continue on to a series. For me, I knew that Soka's journey was far from over, and I wanted to do, I think, something that was more traditionally fantasy, with that ending that I don't want to say it's a cliffhanger, but there's some things left unresolved. So you have that nice setup. And I think Romantasy is really fun because you're sort of playing with different genres and you can take what you love about fantasy and mix it with romance or vice versa. So the ending can always surprise readers who are familiar with both genres but are maybe newer to like this blending of it.
Hmm. And without giving too much away, it's so funny, like when I was reading the book, because I actually like was on TikTok and there's always out different things that are trending. And so I came across this thing, I think it's called like invisible string theory. And so when I was reading the book, I was like, uh-huh, okay.
Mhm.
So I just felt like this, like I said, it's like a perfect way to kind of set up the next book. Which I'll say that much. Did you know that you wanted it to kind of like, and I hate to say end because it does not
Yeah.
make the end, but did you know that you wanted it to kind of lead towards something else?
I did. I hate to say it, but I was planning that from the start, so I knew that that thing was going to happen. Um, but as you were saying, I think the invisible string theory ties in really nicely with Korean mythology and the red thread of fate, and that's all I'll say for now. But I think that there is going to be a common thread throughout both books. Um, yeah.
I know, but it's just so hard. I literally, I'm rooting for our main
Mhm.
characters because, like you said, the more that you start reading and the more that they're interacting with each other, they're like, oh, okay, I can break down my walls and my guard that I have up. And then, especially learning why, one of them is kind of sentenced to where they are and why they are so, angry about it and like, oh, I shouldn't be here. And I don't think that that particular person has found a reason to connect with anybody on earth. And now it's like, oh, there's more here. There's more to what
Mhm.
I've been used to. So when you think about that, when you were writing it, did you know that you wanted to kind of introduce this person to, like, okay, there's more to life than what you've been shown and what you've been used to all this time? Because I think we can kind of get complacent no matter if we have mythical powers or not. I think everybody can get complacent. So did you know you want to introduce that in the book as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we meet this character, he's very jaded. He hates everything so much. He's so mad all the time. The only thing that Soka likes is coffee, and that's about it. He's miserable. And I think part of his character arc that was so fun to write is introducing him to Hani and having him realize that there is more to the mortal realm than just misery and coffee. There's connections to be made and friendships to be made as well. Um, so yeah, I was planning that from the start, which is terrible to say because of the ending. But yeah, I think having him grow both in power and as a person was really pivotal for this character.
And I appreciate that because it's just like, I know we live in a world where everyone says first impressions are everything, and I've been
Mhm.
finding out, especially with reading more books. I'm like, I don't know if that's always
Yeah.
true. I don't always know that's true, especially, you know, especially with Honey. Like I said, just her
Hmm.
being unassuming, and it's like, oh, but when you find out exactly like she's like, oh, okay, she's a lot more powerful than she looks.
Hmm.
That it's funny that you mentioned that, like with these very powerful women, and sometimes I feel like women are underestimated. That's just like a historical thing in every
Yeah.
single culture, and to make her be like, oh, she can be formidable and very powerful
Yeah.
if she wants to, and she's choosing to live her life in a way which is like, I'm calm, and unfortunately, she does introduce, and I forget her name. Oh my gosh, she introduces her coworker.
So me.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
when people, because again, it's unassuming.
Yeah.
She has not been introduced to this world. She's terrified of becoming, and then it's like, oh, it's a little darkness, and there's something that actually Honey notices. She's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
She might be okay.
Honey,
Yeah,
yeah,
she
Honey realizes
has
she's a
fight.
bad influence.
Oh gosh, I know, and by the time she's trying to, like, make changes,
Mhm.
unfortunately, it's a little too late for
Yeah.
it's too late. So it's almost like she's taking her place, from the things
Mhm.
that Honey retired from now. She has this other person
Yes.
who's like, well, I have been awakened. I want to go out into the world. I am very hungry. So I'll just
Oh, yeah. So hungry. She's
the
discovered a taste.
oh my God, she developed that taste, and
Mhm.
I think, unfortunately, when we think about just different things in life, we have people who haven't been introduced to something before, and then they get a taste of it, and it's like, I cannot be controlled.
Yeah.
We all have the power to overindulge, and I think that's
Mhm.
kind of what ends up happening for her.
Yeah, Somi, I think definitely is sort of a display of gluttony in this case. She just can't stop herself, and it's not entirely her fault. It's, arguably also Hani's, probably mostly Hani's, and that's something that, Hani has to reckon with, especially toward the end of the book.
Yeah, and I know that I don't know if that is the only thing that kind of persuaded her to make the kind of sacrifices that she ends up making. But we do see that shift, like, oh, okay, there's still
Hmm.
a way for me to fix it. It might not be the most
Hmm.
favorable thing in the world,
Yeah.
but this is what I feel like has to be done in order for everyone to be safe. And
Yeah.
so heartbreaking.
I
So
know.
heartbreaking.
I'm
But
sorry.
it's so amazing. I just really love the way that you connected all of the dots, not just with one character, but even minor characters. And honestly, when we're thinking about the demon that's going around
Mhm.
terrorizing, I thought I knew for sure.
Mhm.
I thought I knew who it was because I was like, something's weird about this one person. I'm not gonna give
Yeah.
it a name. And I was like, oh, this interaction is weird. But then it completely flips. It's somebody
Yeah.
unassuming. And it's not that we're not introduced to this person. We have been,
Mhm.
but we
Yeah.
just didn't know. So when you were thinking about writing this demon, like how did you decide to kind of come up with his personality? Because, or not, well, I wouldn't say personality because it's more like he has a one track agenda. It's like I am
Yeah.
beyond angry. So how did you come up with his arc?
Well, the demon was so fun to write, and I'm so scared I'm gonna give away who it is, so I'm really watching what I say. But one of the most fun parts about writing the demon was imagining readers trying to guess who it is because there are multiple options and
Mm,
they're all very good options. A lot of them would make complete sense, but there's one option that I wanted to kind of come out of left field upon the first read, but when rereading it, you see little things and you put it together and you're like, "Oh, okay, so this other suspect, this was a red herring, and this was really the demon."
mhm,
And when I was thinking about what kind of person I wanted the demon to take over, I wanted it to be a little bit unsuspecting. You wouldn't guess. You might think about it, but you would also dismiss it just because of one of the subplots going on. You wouldn't really put it together until a certain scene, and then by then it's too late. And it was really fun playing this guessing game as I wrote and making sure that all of these threads could be pulled on and that there could be more than one option for readers to really hone in on and see if they're right or wrong.
yeah, I'm pretty sure people were gonna like, oh my gosh, so, like I'm about to start rereading it to see like, oh my gosh, did I like not pick up
Mhm.
on like little things? Because we talk about red flags all the time.
Oh, yeah.
We are obsessed with green. Oh, that person's a green flag and that person's a red
Mhm.
flag. But sometimes it's difficult because we're not monolithic. And I
Yeah.
think that's what tripped me up when I was reading the book. I was like, oh, but wait, did I miss something in the beginning? Because so I
Yeah.
really appreciate the way that instead of just thinking fate about fate's thread in like a romantic sense, it's all of these different eras from, you know, mythology, and then you have kind of like the evil thread. Like there are all these threads that connect us to different things, and then it's just fate deciding like,
Mhm.
okay, how are you going to be connected to this person in this situation, and what's going to be the outcome of that. So I really am appreciative of the way that this book is so well written. It's such a fun read. I was excited the entire time, and I was like, I identify with both people. I can
Yeah.
like we all have the tendency to be grumpy, and then we all have the tendency to be unassuming and
Mhm.
kind of house this hidden power that we don't, or a past that we don't really want other people to know about. So it's such a great book, and I think everybody should read it if they have not already read it. And I do want to kind of jump into like this rapid fire question because me being curious
Yeah.
now. I just want to kind of get to know the author a little bit more.
Mhm.
So for you, I want to say, what is the last like amazing book that you read?
I just finished The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon, and I loved it. It was so good. I read it on the plane going to and from the book convention I just came back from, and I'm so obsessed.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. Now I have another book to like
Yeah.
CBR list. And
Mhm.
what's the last like TV show that you watched? Or rather, what is one TV show that you could just like binge watch?
I've recently gotten really into The Mentalist. I just love mystery and crime dramas, which is probably no surprise if you've read The God and the Gumiho. And last night I watched probably like 5 episodes in a row. Um, yeah. So The Mentalist, definitely.
Okay. And oh my gosh. So if you somebody told you, hey, you can only eat like one meal for breakfast for a week straight,
No.
you said no. What would you choose? What would you choose?
Oh my God. Omelet, maybe? Yeah, an
Omelet.
omelet.
Okay. I know it's so hard because I change
So
my
hard.
mind like every day. Like I have to have options, and it used to be I could like live off the traditional like American breakfast, and then
Hmm.
my stepdad's Jamaican, so then it's like acting and saltfish and fried dumpling, and I'm like,
Ooh.
well, I don't think I want pancakes today. It's kind of boring.
I know, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, was omelet really the right choice? Like, I don't know.
And oh my gosh, last question. If you could choose, which it might be hard because of knowing what I know about you, romantasy or thriller books?
Oh, you got me. I'm gonna say romantasy because I think romantasy can have thriller aspects,
Mm,
but yeah. Oh, that was so hard. I don't know. I do love a good thriller, but I'll go romantasy for now.
romantasy.
Yeah.
I do
Hmm.
have one more question because
Yeah.
I just forgot. So, do you consider yourself to be an early riser or a night owl?
Oh, early riser.
Early
I think
riser.
that's when I get a lot of my writing done.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been finding that. I used to be like
Yeah.
a late night owl, but now I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, it's quiet in the morning, the birds are chirping, the
Yeah.
sun is rising. Perfect, optimal time for writing.
Yes.
Amazing.
Agreed.
I am so appreciative of you. It was so fun getting to know you, getting to know more about the book, which I really think everybody should go out and get it if they have not read it yet. And I'm super, I always feel like I say this every time I do an interview. I'm like, this is such a great book, but it is, and I'm turning into a book snob because I went from reading books for fun and now I get to like
Hmm.
write about them and do the interviews, but it is so well written, and this is coming from someone like I grew up on Harry Potter series, so I don't know if I necessarily like had the romantasy
Hmm.
aspect. Oh, I knew I love fantasy, so combining the two, I was like, oh, this is a great genre. I hope nobody stops writing in this genre. I cannot wait for the next part of Fate Threads.
Yes.
Be on the lookout, and hopefully we can get you back on here so we can tie the
Yes.
dots together because I feel like we'll have a lot more to talk about once this next book comes out into the world.
I can confirm we will have a lot more to talk about.
So now my heart is like I'm gonna be
Yeah.
excited about it. But thank you so much, and I hope you have
Thank you.
a great rest of your week, and I'll be in touch.
You too. Thank you for having me. This was so
You're welcome.
fun.
It was. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.